To make a few remarks on this topic. One of the confounds in all the discussion on this theory is that somehow the free energy that comes from renewables is going to make life better for people in terms of cheaper energy and more jobs. And one of the things that interests me is, as I look at the question around jobs and I look at the Juan Carlos University in Spain, who did a study on the job outcomes of their focus on renewable energy, is that for every job that was created in the renewable space on a sustainable basis, some 2.5 jobs of traditional infrastructure and industries were destroyed. And so whilst there were jobs created during the construction phase, long term there was a net loss in jobs in Spain. We also see the other confound in the argument that's just been put forward around the issue of energy pricing. And in South Australia, my home state, we have the nation's largest percentage of renewable energy, and yet we also have the nation's highest power prices. And one of the reasons that I think we should be concerned about the drive to continuously increase renewable energies is that we need affordable power pricing to keep industries going that employ people. Renewable energies at this stage, whether we're talking wind or solar, can't provide baseload power. And so even where we see renewable energy providing an increasing percentage of baseload power, we still have to keep in reserve, if you like, the ability to provide baseload power from either coal or gas, in the case of South Australia, which means that as they lose market share to the taxpayer subsidised renewable sector, their costs that they have to amortise across the ability to maintain their potential to provide 100% baseload power increase continuously per unit of power that they are able to sell. And so we get to this perverse situation where one day we may end up having to subsidise people who are burning fossil fuels in order to enable them to continue to provide that assurance of baseload power because the renewable sector can't. And so whilst it is appealing at one level to hear the debate that endless amounts of sun means endless amounts of free energy, the reality right now is that for South Australia, increasing amounts of renewables, which is on one hand looks very attractive, we also have the highest power cost in the nation, and that has a detrimental impact on the ability of industry to still function, compete in a global environment and employ Australians. And we see increasing pressure on the non-renewable sector that is still required to provide that backup of the potential of providing 100% of our baseload power. So whilst over time we have seen governments of both persuasions invest in renewable energy, in the coalition I recall investing in things like solar and near Whyalla in South Australia, in terms of the geothermal in northern South Australia, that the reality is large-scale subsidy of renewable power hasn't delivered the nirvana that we are hoping for. And so this decision to look at reducing the target is an appropriate balance of saying let's continue some investment in renewables, but let's also recognise that unrestrained increase in those targets could well lead, as we're seeing, to increasing pricing, which makes it more difficult for communities to continue to operate industries and to continue to employ people, which sustains the very economy that we are hoping to be the basis of Australia's future in terms of innovation and manufacturing and jobs. And for that reason, I support the bill brought forward by the government.
Thank you, Senator Fawcett.